Most people miss this. Have you ever spent 3 consecutive nights? I'm talking 2 a.m., eyes blurring, 12 tabs open, You're looking at expense ratios like 0.03% versus 0.015%. It's about 75 cents a year. Wait. Or maybe you've spent weeks hunting for the perfect high-yield savings account because one pays 4.5% and the other pays 4.6%. You feel like you're being responsible. You feel like you're being diligent. Here's the thing. You're not being diligent. You're being paralyzed. And that perfection you're chasing, it's actually the silent tax that's keeping you broke. My name is Joni, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology of the math behind your bank account. If you're someone who feels like you're constantly standing on the sidelines of your own financial life because you're afraid of making the wrong move, make sure to hit. Look, we've been lied to. We've been told that personal finance is a game of optimization. We're taught that the person with the most complex spreadsheet, the most diverse portfolio, and the most optimized tax loss harvesting strategy wins. But in the real world, the math doesn't care about your spreadsheet if there's no money in the account. I call this the 85% rule. Here's what most people don't realize. A good financial plan executed today is worth 10 times more than a perfect financial plan executed next year. But we struggle with this because our brains are wired to avoid regret. We are terrified of picking the second best 75 cents a year that we end up picking the absolute worst option by default, doing nothing. Let's look at some actual numbers because this is where it gets really interesting. Let us say you have $10,000 ready to invest. I want to time the bottom. Here's the thing. The market goes up. You're not being diligent. You're being paralyzed. In those 6 months, Person B's money has already grown by roughly $400. There's a famous study by J.P. Morgan Asset Management that looked at the S&P 500 over a 20-year period. You literally cut your wealth in half because you wanted to be perfect. That is the perfection tax. I want to time the bottom. Why do we do this? It's called analysis paralysis. Think of it like a plane on a runway. If the pilot spent 4 hours double-checking the seatbelt stitching, the plane never leaves the ground. A plane with slightly suboptimal peanuts that actually takes off will get you to Hawaii. I want to time the bottom. Stop trying to be perfect. Be 85% there. Go get started. I'll see you in the next one. Here's the thing. You're not being diligent. You're being paralyzed. So, how do we fix this? We apply the 85% rule to the 3 pillars of your money: saving, investing, and spending. Boring equals good. You are 85% of the way to being a millionaire. Is there a way to squeeze out an extra 1% by picking individual stocks? Maybe. But the effort required to get that last... I want to time the bottom. I see people trying to track every single cup of coffee down to the cent in a manual ledger. They do it for 4 days, get frustrated, and quit. Set an auto transfer for 20% of your paycheck to savings. Whatever is left, spend it. The psychological 85%. The perfect way to pay off debt is the avalanche method, paying the highest interest rate first. But for many, the snowball method, Paying the smallest balance first is the 85% solution. Why? I'd rather you use a mathematically suboptimal plan that you actually finish than a perfect plan you abandon in 2 months. Now, you might be thinking, but Joni, shouldn't I care about the details?
Wait!
If I'm not careful, I'll lose money to fees and bad choices. In economics, there's a concept called the Pareto principle. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Starting early, automating your savings, not selling when the market gets scary. Everything else, the specific brokerage, the exact day of the month you buy, it's all the remaining 15%. It's noise. I once knew a guy, let's call him Mark. Mark wanted to buy a house. While he was waiting for the 100% perfect scenario, home prices in his area rose by 25%. Interest rates went up 2%. Don't be Mark. Here is your 85% rule homework. I want you to do this today, not tomorrow, today. The good enough account. If your money is in a checking account, move it to any high-yield savings account. Set up a recurring transfer, even if it's just $50 a week. Wealth isn't built by people who have all the answers. It's built by people who were brave enough to start while they were still confused. The compound interest clock doesn't care how many books you've read. It only cares when you put the first dollar in. Go get started. I'll see you in the next one.